Hey everyone, I'm so excited you clicked into the video because today I'm going to build a inventory system from scratch in Google Sheets, and it's going to be designed to handle both a large volume of different unique SKUs as well as give you a lot of powerful information that you can use if you're selling multiples of the same SKU in your store. If you're new here, my name's Chase. I run TCG Bulk Kings. I've been selling high volume and trading cards, low end to middle end trading cards online for 5+ years now. Handle thousands and thousands of cards every week. And this is the system that isn't out there for anybody else that I had to invent for myself. And now I'm basically going to show you how to build it yourself. Or if you're impatient or you want to follow along with the spreadsheet, I'm going to give you a link to it down in the description below here so that you can get it for free. No charge, no upsells, no signups or anything. Just go ahead and have it and it'll work for you. A couple of caveats up front. I'm designing this for trading cards. I'm designing it for use with one marketplace. Obviously, as a spreadsheet, you can change things how you need to. If you are selling coffee mugs online, or you have a brick and mortar store that sells used books or anything, this system should be easily adaptable to your needs. I'm going to set it up for trading cards, but it's just like a couple of like category titles and things like that that you can use to differentiate your items other than just by the SKU number. That's really the main difference. The first, I want to explain kind of the structure of the spreadsheet system we're going to be using. So it's actually going to use 4 sheets, which I know sounds complicated, but bear with me. Just be patient and watch until we're actually putting it together. It's not that complicated at all. But there's going to be 4 sheets. So we're going to have an added sheet. That's where we document every item that we add into our store and all the information that's about it. So its SKU number, its title, its various category things, and importantly, how many we have, how much they cost, what date we added it, and the total cost for all of those that we added in. Then we're going to have a sheet where we do basically the same thing, but we record our solds. So it'll have order number, all the details about the item, but we're also importantly going to put in, again, the date that we sold the item on, as well as the revenue and the various fees and costs that are associated with that transaction. And then both of those together are going to inform a master sheet. And that one is going to aggregate everything together onto a single sheet so that each individual SKU has a row in the sheet, and then it's going to check both of these sheets for all your historical data throughout the entire time your store is active, so that if you add 1 of this card on this day and then 2 a month later and then 10 more another month after that, well, it'll show you have 13 in stock. But if you sell 7 of those over the course of that time, then it'll remove those from the stock. And then on the master sheet, we're going to calculate a couple of interesting pieces of information based off of that data. And then finally, all 3 of those are going to inform a dashboard where we can look at our data cut up into different time pieces and just look at just a few numbers that we can see kind of how our store is performing, how it performed in this time period, that kind of thing. So without further ado, let's jump right down here. I'm going to share my screen and then you'll see how I'm building it. Okay, so here we are sharing my screen. I'm on a brand new untitled spreadsheet. So let's go ahead and title this the bulk inventory starter. All right, that's what it's called. And for this, we're going to use 4 sheets total. So we'll go ahead and create all 4. There we go, 4 sheets. The first one we're going to call the dashboard. The second one we're going to call the added sheet. Then the master sheet. And finally the sold sheet. So this is all that we're going to need for our entire inventory system at the starter level. We'll do the dashboard last once we get all the information set up on the others. Let's go ahead and get started on our added sheet. Okay, so first we're going to start by adding in all of our headers. So we're going to need, let's see, we're going to need, starting with the item ID or SKU. That's what we'll call it, the SKU, just to make it simple. Then we need the date that we are adding whatever piece of inventory into our inventory system. Then let's do not date adding, date added. There we go. Let's do the item name, the category, the set, the type, the quantity added, the cost per unit, and the total cost. That's everything. That's all the pieces of information we need for our added sheet. So we're going to go ahead and just do a little formatting here. Center, and yeah. Now if we highlight all this and then right click, can we make this into a table? Convert to a table. There we go. There's lots of different things we can do with tables. We're not going to do a whole lot. Let's move on to our sold sheet. So again, we're going to start with headers and get the table created. So we're going to start with the order number. Now this sheet's going to be a little more complicated than the added one because we're going to use it to enter in our revenue and our fees and shipping costs and things like that. So so we got the item, the SKU. We're calling it SKU on this one. There we go. The date sold, the item name, category, set. Now, if you're not doing cards, you don't have to use these exact names, obviously, for these. It's just unique identifiers for the item so that if you have two similar things, like if you have two pairs of Levi jeans, they're both the same size, they're both the same style, but one is dark blue and the other is light blue. You can use these two columns here to denote other differences, right? So just whatever is most useful for you. Like I said, I'm setting this up for cards. You can do what you need to with these categories if you're doing this on your own. Then we got type, and I'll show you what those mean for cards here in just a bit. So the quantity sold, so how many were sold in the order, how many cards per order. And some of these on this page also, on the sheet also, some of these columns here towards the end will be calculated and we'll completely show the formulas for that. Item price in the order, total price for the order. We need that for each row, so we'll calculate that out. Excuse me. The shipping credit, and then calculated shipping per item, the fees per item, the shipping costs, and the shipping costs per item, and then finally the total profit. Now this will be profit before the cost of the items themselves. That'll get calculated on the master sheet. So again, let's do some formatting. Let's center line in, and then let's make this into a table. All right, we got another table. Let's change this table to red just to keep it distinct. Got the green one for added, red for sold, and now our master sheet. So again, starting with the headers. Let's see, we've got SKU. There we go. Item name, category, set, type, the current stock, total sold, the average item cost. So this will calculate based off of when we add multiple of the same item on our added sheet in different batches, it'll calculate the average item cost for us here. The average sale per item, that's the average revenue generated by each copy of that item that's sold. The total revenue, the total fees, total shipping, and then the total profit. And this is where it'll account for the actual cost to purchase the original inventory. And we've got the average revenue per unit and the average profit per unit. So that's where, like, for each unique card or item that we're selling, it'll, if we sell it multiple times, it'll calculate how much we average a sale price for and then how much we average to profit from each one of those. So that's the headers and the table setup for each of our units here. Now on the added sheet, all of this will be entered data except for the last one here where we calculate the total cost, and it's just going to be the quantity added times the cost. So that's going to be equal to this times this, and then we'll autofill. Yeah. Let's change the table range. We'll go ahead and change them up to 1,000 just to have it completely set up there. There, now it's filled in for the entire table. And then if we want just to be clean with our information, let's go ahead and wrap this in this if, let's see, A2 equals 0, then display nothing, else show this, right? That's there. So now if we have a SKU number here, whoops, now it's showing 0, and then if we add 10 of those at a cost of $25 each, total cost is $250. That's the added sheet. That's pretty much it. I'll show you how we add information into the added sheet here in just a minute. So let's move on to the sold sheet. Let's do any formulas we need to do here. Now for the ones that are calculated, I like to make them look a little different, so I darken them a little bit with a light gray. This row, this row, this row, and this row, we will make a little light gray. Except, okay, let's undo that. Let's not do the column headers in that color. There we go. Let's try that again. There we go. So now those are calculated. You don't type anything to those. And then this one, let's make it into a green for the total profit. Just for funsies. Again, all of this will be input data. We need to put in formulas for our calculated columns. For our cards per order, we need to calculate that for certain other calculations in here. So, if we have an order number over here that looks like this. So we've got, these are some eBay order numbers, I think. So whatever. If we put in how many we've got sold on whatever marketplace it is, say this was the same order but had two different cards on it, 2 of this and 3 of that, right? So we need to have here, we're going to do equals for our formula. So the basic formula is going to be a sum if formula. And so it's going to pick a range to look at, and then it's going to pick some criterion that it's going to look at in that range, and then what's it going to do in that range. So the range we're going to look at is the A column, right, for all the order numbers. And then the criterion is that it matches the order number that's on the same line as we're on. So that's that there. And then what it's going to check is going to check the column quantity sold here, the H column, to figure out how many. So it's going to check the A column, check for all instances that where the A column matches the A2 cell, and then it's going to add up all of the instances in the H column that occur with matches, so that it should add up to 5 on this. There it is. See, 5. Now we're gonna wait to autofill because we want to put an error statement in here too, an if. So we don't want it to display for the whole thing, so we're gonna do if, and then A2 equals 0. That's basically just a statement of if it's empty, then we'll display nothing. That's what's showing here. We'll display an empty thing, and then if it's not, then we'll do this. We need an extra close parenthesis, and that should be good, and that will autofill throughout the whole thing. And you can see here it's calculating 5 here as well based on the H3 cell, the A3 cell, sorry. And then this one is doing it just its own order. So, and then we still have the formula for all of these down this way. Okay, so that covers that. Let's say these were $2, $3, and $4, and we need to do a similar thing with the total price per order, right? So this is going to be a very similar type of formula. It's going to be, we'll do equals if A2 equals 0, and nothing else, sum if A, that's showing the whole A column, matches A2, and then we're just going to sum the J column instead of the H column, right? So you can see I highlighted it there to show that's what we picked up. Close the parenthesis, and you see it's worked. We'll autofill the whole table, and there we go. Same with the shipping credit. Say this was 0.99, and this was 131, right? We don't have to put anything in here because these were on the same order, so we're only going to have to put in the shipping credit once for the order. The same with the shipping costs and everything else we do. We'll do again a very similar type of formula here. So again, we're wanting to evenly distribute this shipping credit over each item. So we have to do a little bit more complicated thing because we have multiple items. It's not just the cost that goes to each row, because more of it should get distributed to this item than it should to this item, right? That way we get a equitable calculation of the fees and the costs and the things like that spread over each item in the order, so we can get a real actual calculation of profit, and it doesn't get lopsided because one item in the thing was way more expensive than the other, or things like that. Or you get orders with 5 copies of one thing and 1 copy of another thing, and you ended up you split the shipping half to the one with 5 and half to the one with 1. That doesn't work. We want to make sure that it splits everything up by unit. So again, we're going to do equals, that's a plus, equals if A2 equals 0, then nothing, and then else. So again, we're going to start with a sum if, and it's A2, and then we're going to sum the L column, but we don't want just that. because we need to multiply that by the number of items on this line, which is in the H column, the quantity sold for that item. And then we need to divide that by the total number of items in the order, right? Yeah, that should do everything. So we had 99 cents on that order, and so we had 5 cards. 2/5 of the shipping credit should go to this line, and then 3/5 to this line, and that's how it's done it. So you can see, if you look at the formula here, you got the breakdown per item, right? That's the total on the order, right? 99 cents. That's what this part here picks out, is the total on the order. And then you multiply that by some fraction that is the percentage of the cards on that order that were these cards. So times H3 divided by I3, that gives you the total there. And then on this one, since it's only unique card on the order, it's distributed all of it to that. So worked out. So again, let's do with fees. Say this was 52 cents, and we don't have to put it in for that one. This one was 65 cents. And this one's done exactly the same way, so I'm not going to talk through the whole thing. There we go. Same deal. Split that up 2/5, 3/5, same way. So, and again, it's spread down through the whole table. Shipping costs will work the same way. Say it costs us 74 cents for each of these, right? That's the current discounted rate for ESE shipping or shipping from a regular shipping service like stamps.com or ShipStation, etc., etc. So again, it's the same type of formula. Equals if go. Accidentally missed the autofill trigger, so we gotta do it manually like that. There we go. And then the total profit calculation here at the end is just gonna be adding up and subtracting these different revenues and fees, right? So we're gonna do equals this one plus this one minus this one minus this one. There we go. Autofill it, and we'll fill it in again. Let's do an if A2 equals 0, then don't display anything. There we go. So now this one's all set up so that when we get a new order in, doesn't matter what it is, new order. There's the SKU, date sold. I'm filming this the day before Thanksgiving. so we sold a cleansing wildfire. This is magic. Set is Zendikar Rising. It's near mint foil. We sold 3 of them. Auto calculates that. We sold them at a total of $1.20, 40 cents a piece. Got a good price for them. Shipping credit from TCG players $1.31. The fees were 63 cents, and it cost us 74 cents in shipping. So our total profit was $1.14. Now I'm not accounting for supplies cost. You can add a static number to this shipping cost if you want. So say it costs 15 cents in supplies to do that. So you'd make it, instead of 0.74, it'd be 0.89. And that's it. It's just auto-calculate that through there, right? So there we go. That's all that done. So let's add this over here just to have it. So yeah, that's the SKU I used. Say we added this on the 23rd. Quantity added 10. Cost per unit, let's say 0.01 each. We got them in bulk. There's our total cost. Okay. So now our master sheets, our final sheet that we got to set up. Now pretty much all of this is going to be calculated, so it's going to be a little different. What we want this to do is to create a new line whenever we sell something, or whenever we add something into inventory. So it's going to automatically create a new line for us. So we're going to use some of the filter type formulas that are a little bit different from just your regular formulas. So for this one, we're going to start with a unique formula. So it tells us, you know, Google Sheets is great because it tells you what the things do. So what it's going to do is it's going to check a range, and our range isn't going to be on this sheet, but that doesn't matter. We can go over here and we'll click this right here, and we're going to start it at 2 so it doesn't add in the header, right? You just generate it once. If we go on here and we add in another thing, Heartflame Duelist Showcase from Wilds of Eldraine. Oh, we need to make it a showcase, right? We said we got 25 of them at a penny a piece. Okay, so now I'll go to our master sheet and look, it's added that as well. All right, so we could do uniques for the same thing, but it's gonna be, I would like this to be the only thing that's generated, and then these will all generate off of the SKU, right? So we're gonna use a different formula for that. It's called VLOOKUP. You may have heard of it before. So we're gonna do that. So we've got, let's put this in an if error. And this way, if it comes up and there's some kind of error, like there's not something in the A column or whatever, it'll just display nothing for us. So we want the value if there's not an error. That's what we start with. So for that, we're going to do the VLOOKUP formula, and it's going to check A2. That's our key. That's what it's looking for. Then it's going to ask, where are we looking for it for? We're going to look in the added sheet in its A column, or we have to pick the whole sheet, right? There we go. And the reason for that is because it's going to display the corresponding thing from another column. We have to tell it which column in that group. let's go back to the master sheet. So now it's picked that whole column as our range. Now the index, that's the column in that sheet that it's going to display. We wanted to display the item name here, right? So that's going to be column 3 because it doesn't do it by letters, it does it by numbers. And then 0 for not sorting it, and that closes that. And then if there's an error, we want it to display nothing, so we just put nothing in there. Boom, there we go. It shows cleansing wildfire. Oh, let's do this before we forget. There's the table. There we go. Now it's showing Heartflame Duelist as well. Heartflame Duelist Showcase, see? Alright, so that's that one. It's the same formula basically for these, except it's going to be a different index column, right? So we're going to do what we can. Here's a little trick that we can do. We can put in a $sign on these, and it won't change. Like when you drag this over, normally it'll change these numbers thinking that it's trying to help us out. Oh no, not what we wanted. I see. See what I've done? I shouldn't have done that $sign, right? There. So now that's all there. It's always going to reference that column's first. It's always going to reference that row's first column, and then now the A row will stay the same and everything. If we drag it over, boop, it stayed the same, and all we got to do is change the index there. Right now it's magic. Now it's got the set. Wait, no. This one. We changed the wrong one. There we go. There's the set. And the type. Right? And then we fill those through the whole sheet. Bah. There we go. Alright, so the current stock calculation, that is a bit tricky. Now that's going to combine information from both the added and the sold sheet. So we want to have it add up from the added sheet all the instances of us adding that particular SKU, right? So we got to do equals sum if. So again, we're going to just tell it the range, starting with the added sheet, A column. Now the criterion is that it matches A2. And then the sum range is the added sheet G column. Right? Let's go back to here. Close. So just doing that makes it display how many we've added, right? But that's not the whole thing. We've got to subtract how many we've sold, right? So we got to subtract sum if, and then we go to the sold sheet, and so again we're going to check for the SKU on the sold sheet. That's on the B column, not the A column, and that's going to match A2 on our master sheet, and then the range is going to be quantity sold, right? There we go, and now we see it's 7. There we go. And then we want to get rid of all these zeros. So we're going to put the whole thing in an if A2 equals 0, 0, display nothing, else display the whole thing. There. Autofill it. There we go. We haven't sold any Heartflame Duelists, so it didn't subtract any, but we had sold 3 Cleansing Wildfires, so it subtracted 3 to make it 7. So that's our current stock. We have a column here that shows just how many we've sold total, which again is just this. It's just the back half of this formula. So we can just copy that. Copy equals paste. There we go. Autofill it. Average item cost. Okay, so the average item cost, we're just going to do... Alright, so we're going to do the SUMIF formula we did before, but we're going to add up the cost column corresponding to our SKU number. We're going to search this column. We're going to look for A2, and we're going to add up this column for it. And then we're going to divide that by the total quantity that we've added, which again was just the front half of this one equation, right? Put some parentheses in there to make sure everything's clear. And then again, if we want there, so it's added up the average cost of these. So if we had on our added column here, we added 30 more, but it cost us 2 cents a piece, or 20 cents a piece each for them. And now it figures the average item cost, right? All right, so we're basically going to do similar things for all the rest of these columns across here. Average price, that's simple. That's gonna be equals the total revenue here divided by the total number of items that have sold, right? All right, so you see here we're getting this division by 0 because we haven't sold any of these yet, and this doesn't look nice on our page, so we don't want to just do an if, we want to do an if error. So we'll keep that if in there, and then we'll do the if error show nothing, right? There, now it's gone away, but the formula's still there, right? And then the total revenue, we're gonna add up from our sold sheet the item price and the shipping credit, just the same way. So we're gonna do equals SUMIF this. The SKU matches A2, and then we'll add up that column, and then we'll do plus the same thing and add the shipping credits as well. There we go. There we go. So total revenue from this one is 0, but from this one is 251. All right, so we'll sum up the fees. Same way. We're going to check the SKUs against A2 and add up the corresponding fees. Same for the total shipping costs. We'll check the SKUs against A2, add up the shipping costs. That's worked. All right, and then the total profit. We don't actually need this column. That's redundant to this, right? Sale price per item, revenue per item. It's the same thing. We're going to delete this column. It is not needed. There we go. So we've got the total profit across all sales of this item. It's going to be the total revenue minus the total fees minus the total shipping, right? There's that. And then we, again, just make it so we're not showing all those zeros forever. Autofill. And then the average profit per unit is just going to be this number divided by the total sold. This one divided by this one. All right, we've done that again. We got to put an if error on it. There. All right, so there's all our sheets all working together in harmony. We haven't set up the dashboard yet, but I want to show how this works real quick again. So you can do this in bulk with, if you're using the CSV spreadsheets to add in inventory to TCG Player, or if you're adding eBay, you can, if you're using some type of tool that generates listings for you, again via CSVs, you can copy and paste the stuff directly into these columns. And then it should just auto-populate. So if you add in these columns with this date, these names, and all this stuff with these quantities and these prices, or if you sell things over here on your marketplace, you can just add in, you can get a CSV download and copy paste all the information from your various sales in here. Let's undo that. And it should auto-populate back onto your master sheet, and then the master sheet will automatically update, and that gives you per SKU, it gives you the total revenue that you get from that item, how many you've sold, how many you currently have, what your average sale is for each one item, your total profit for that item, and your average sale per average profit for each of those cards sold or items sold. So that gives you a lot of information, especially once you start populating this over time. Say you've done this for a month and you've added 500 cards into your inventory, 200 of which are unique, and then you've sold 75 of them over the course of that. This will populate, and you'll get your historical data from your own actual successful sales, rather than just relying on the aggregate information that the warehouse or that the marketplace shows you. So, if you're in a very tight niche on eBay and you've been buying, say you're doing T-shirts or something like that, that's not a tight niche, but again, let's say you're doing T-shirts, and there's some T-shirts that you've seen a lot, and you've bought one and it's sold. Now you know what your profit is for that you actually generated with your actual store, not just what little information you can get from eBay from looking at how many have sold and how many are listed currently, right? Now you know how fast you sell it. Maybe you see another one and it's for significantly less than your average profit, so you buy it, right? Then you sell it again, and now you've got 2 pieces of data that show the rate for that shirt. Then you do it 10 more times. This obviously works a little bit better with higher volume when you're selling lots of similar items, but it also stretches out so that you can cover lots and lots of different unique SKUs as well. So there's that. And then having that data for each SKU is super useful as well. Alright, so I'm going to make a simple dashboard. It's just going to be formula driven. It's not going to involve any big charts or anything like that. Nothing complicated. So let's go ahead and knock that out real quick. Alright, so we're going to highlight some spaces, 7 across. Let's just do a bunch there, and we'll delete it back off if we need to after the fact. I'm going to turn all this orange. It's going to look better, I promise. I'm going to narrow up every other column and stretch out the ones in between them. It's just going to make it look pretty. So here we're going to make it a little lighter color orange. And this is our bulk inventory starter dashboard. And let's merge and center up and down. And we're going to make this a little bigger, a little bolder. There we go. Nice little title for our dashboard. Alright, so here we're going to put start date. You know what, let's make the whole page centered just to make it easy. There we go. Let's change these to that lighter orange too. We're going to change these to white. We're going to stretch these out a little bit. These can be orange, and these can be white. Oops. There we go. Stretch. Come on. Stretch those out too. Alright. So here we're just going to put in a date. Let's do November 1st. Let's fill up the space. Let's put it in the middle. There we go. So maybe we want to start with, you know, we want to look at a month. We're going to use these dates in here to automatically calculate some different metrics on here for us, right? So let's see. First, let's look at revenue. Revenue during the entire time period, right? That way it's not just calculating the revenue for all time and eternity forever for us. Let's look at just the revenue. Okay, so it's similar to what we were doing before, but we need to add in the dates here so that we can, that's why it was important that we put the dates in here when we add things and when we sell things, right? So that way we can calculate some of this stuff and see how we're doing in different time periods. We need, so it's a similar function to SUMIF. It's called SUMIFs, and it just lets us use multiple conditions. See, now we got multiple conditions. So the range we're going to check for revenue is going to be on the sold page. So we've got revenue split up over item price and the shipping credits. We'll have to do this twice. So we'll range here. And then the criteria range 1 is going to be that this is the range, the date, and that it needs to be greater than or equal to, and then an ampersand, and then this cell right here. Right now our second criterion, this is going to be the same range over here in on the sold page in C, and now it's going to be less than or equal to, and then the date is going to be this date. right, and then this is a currency, and we want to make this, what size did we say, 18? There we go. So if we go here to our sold page, you can see things we've added the dates on. We've sold $1.20, but hey, let's do this. Let's drag this up so it adds those dates in and automatically updated on our dashboard. Check that out. Now the neat thing about these dates is you double click on it and it automatically realizes it's the date. So you can go and just, you double click on it, it'll bring up this calendar and you can change the date. You change it here to 24th and the revenue went down, you see, because this transaction occurred on the 23rd. Now how about profit? We can do that too. Equal sum ifs, sum range, that'll be this column. Criterion is all right, so our profit, this same time period, is $9.79. Again, we can change it. It'll all dynamically change. All right, let's say how many, we want to do how many transactions total. Same exact type of thing. So we're going to do if, or equals sum ifs, sum range. This will be on the added sheet, total quantity added. And then the criterion range, again, be the date added. Greater than or equal to this date. This date. So we've added 65 cards during that month, and you can see that adds up. And then, okay, how about oh, this is cards added. Man, I'm getting a little sleepy. There we go. Number of transactions. That one will just, we'll want to add up the unique numbers from the sold sheet, right? So we want to do, what is that? Okay, so transactions. Yeah, count A. That's how we do it. Just count, which counts only the number of numbers, so it doesn't work if there's letters or something. Just count ifs, which does conditional counts, but it's weird. We want to do count A, so we're just going to add this column, call it good. There's five unique order numbers. Is that right? No, we're adding in the header, so we got to do that, and then it's not counting uniques. There we go. So we nest a unique inside it, and it works. And then again, if we add in another SKU or another order number, it's 4 now. What else might we want to track? So what if we want like the total average ticket over the whole store? That is this divided by this. Cool, that was easy. But it's a useful thing. How about a sell-through rate? I've just made this dashboard look like this. You can change it the way it looks if you want. I don't really care. You're building this along with me, or you're downloading this from me and you can do with it whatever you want after that, right? So the sell-through rate, I guess there's two different ways to calculate this. There's a sell-through rate for the period, and then there's a sell-through rate for the whole store overall, both of which might be useful pieces of information. So we'll just show both on here, and you can eliminate one if you don't like it or don't use it or whatever. So the sell-through rate for the whole store, that's going to be the total number of cards sold, total number of cards sold divided by the total number of cards added. So we'll have to add, we got the cards, well, that's just for the period, right? So we got to do sum of sold divided by sum of total added. Simple, right? Not complicated. We're going to call this a percent, and we're going to go, you know, we're going to make it all formatted nice. There we go. And then the sell-through in the period, again, is just going to be the total number of cards sold in the period divided by the total number of cards added in the period. We have transactions, but there may be more than one card per transaction, so we're going to have to sum this up. Sum ifs. Oh, wait. Sold this if this is greater than. We're going to do this whole trick again. Divided by this, because that is just this, but for the cards added. Now, in our example here, currently these are the same. This is our percent. Let's make it big and make it float. But let's change this to here, and we see our sell-through rate has gone up, but not the sell-through rate for the whole time period. All right, so that's my bulk inventory starter system. I'm calling it that because I'm planning in the next couple of weeks to release a pro version, which is going to have a lot more detailed insights into your sales numbers, kind of give you some more information like sales velocity or support for multiple marketplaces so that you can spread your inventory into different places and have more eyeballs see it, so you're more likely to get a sale. It's also going to auto-calculate like a buy list type feature, so that it's, again, based off of your historical sales data. It'll look at that and see exactly what you're selling quickly enough and for enough profit to be able to buy outright rather than just hope you get in bulk. And also to have a bunch more updated KPIs on the dashboard and more information on the master sheet that you can use to learn more about the cards you're trying to sell. So if you have any feedback or any questions about the bulk inventory starter system, please leave me a comment. I'd love to hear feedback. I'd love to improve this as much as I can and make it as useful as possible for anybody. Definitely follow the link to get this version if you want it, or build it yourself. But also keep an eye out for the pro version that should be coming out before too long, and then the special secret project that's coming out after that with a whole lot more information that's going on in that. So that's all I got today. Thanks for coming in, and we'll see you in the next one.